Now we're going to continue to work with the vectors, but in the context of using the dot product. So here's problem 27. We're actually given two vectors, and we're first asked to determine the dot product, and then the angle between the two vectors. So from the formula sheet, well, let's first graph these two vectors, and then we'll look at the formulas and work out the problem. I highly recommend you do this because this is a way to check to see that your answer makes sense or looks correct. So V is 1I minus 1J. So 1I is 1 in the x direction, negative 1J is down here. So here is vector V. Now vector W is negative I, so negative 1 in the x and 1. So now just from graphing it looks to me like these are going to be parallel opposite direction, but let's prove that mathematically. So from the formula sheet, first thing they ask for is the dot product. So in case you forget, the equation for the dot product, when you have two vectors, you take the I parts and you multiply them, and you add that to the product of the j parts. So here are these two vectors v and w, a1 times a2, and then b1 times b2, and you add those together. And then in a minute, we'll use this equation to calculate the angle between the two vectors. So the dot product, we got 1 times negative 1 plus negative 1 times 1. Negative 1 plus the negative 1 looks like negative 2. So that's the dot product. And I'm going to check as I do these problems to make sure. Yep. Now, the equation that we can use to determine the angle between the two vectors is this. So the numerator is the dot product. We already calculated that. Now we have the magnitude of vector v times the magnitude of vector w. So magnitude is square root for v, 1 squared plus negative 1 squared, square root of all that. Now magnitude of w is square root of minus 1 squared plus 1 squared. So this right here is square root of 2. This is square root of 2. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just going to be 2. So we have cosine of theta. So what's the angle where the cosine is negative 1? Cosine of negative 1 is right here, right? What's that angle? 180 degrees. And at the very end of the question, they ask you, are the vectors parallel, orthogonal, or neither? And obviously, you would say those vectors are parallel. All right, one more problem just like that. I think the math might be a little messier. Number 28. Once again, two vectors. Let's make a quick sketch. Might not be totally accurate, but should be close. Square root of 3 is, I don't know, 1 point something, maybe 2 point something. 1.7. So if we try and graph these two vectors, so negative 1.7i and 3j, so maybe vector v may have something like that, and vector w is I plus j, so now it almost looks like a right triangle, but it probably, I don't know. That's why you have to do the math. You can't really trust the graphs, but this just gives us an idea of what to expect. So the first thing they ask for is a dot product. So now we have, remember you multiply the I parts, minus 3 times 1, so negative square root of 3, sorry, negative square root of 3 times 1 is negative square root of 3. And then multiply the j parts 3 times 1. So that's the dot product. I'm not going to change it to a decimal, so leave it like that. Now, if I want to find the angle between the vectors, this is the equation we have to use again. So we already know the dot product is this. So magnitude of v, take negative square root of 3, and I'm going to square it, plus 3 squared. So there's a magnitude of v. Magnitude of w is just 1 squared plus 1 squared. So now simplify this. Negative square root of 3 plus 3. So negative square root of 3 squared is just 3. So this is 3 plus 3 squared, 9. That's actually 12. Of course, this is going to be 2. Now at this point, I'm pretty sure this is not a special angle. So we're actually going to go and grab my calculator and actually do this calculation. So negative square root of 3 plus 3 divided by the square root of 24. So 0.2588. So if the cosine of theta equals 0.2588, to get theta we take the inverse cosine. So I'll make sure my calculator's in the degree mode. I go to inverse cosine. Turns out it's 75 degrees. So that's reasonable. So for this problem, they ask for the dot product, then they ask for the angle, and then they ask you the question, are the two vectors parallel, orthogonal, or neither? And in this case, you would choose neither. Parallel means they're either 0 degrees or 180. Orthogonal means they're 90 degrees. This one's 75. All right.